welcome everybody to a brand new day of IS50A. Today we're going to be talking about lighting, and we're going to talk about the different kinds of lights, and we're going to talk about how to control lights in a blueprint. Okay, so we talked probably a little bit about these things before. You got these things called point lights. You can move them around, they cast shadows and stuff like that. They got a light color. You can change the color of the light coming off of it. Lights in daylight, kind of hard to see, so it'll put together like a little office complex over here, huh? So whenever you work with the ground, it's usually a good idea to just flatten it and just kind of, nope, not like that. So we can get it flat this way. There we go. A lot of you might have noticed that on your spline roads as well, that it's just a lot easier to work with these things if the thing's just perfectly flat. When you have ups and downs and the roads kind of have these weird, and they interpenetrate the ground and they look bad and stuff like that. So a little trick you can do is just flatten everything out. And when you cover it up with the building, people typically don't notice the ground's perfectly flat anyway, because in real life, this is what we do, right? Like we usually don't build buildings at a 5-degree angle or something like that. We flatten them, we bring in earth moving equipment, smooth everything out, put down a concrete pad on top of it, and then build from there. So this is actually not natural. Like you wouldn't see this in nature necessarily, but with buildings and stuff like that, absolutely. So I'm just gonna sketch out a little office complex here. So what do I want to do? Actually, let's maybe make the concrete pad first. Just kind of do this. I'm not even going to texture it. I'm just gonna make just a really roughed out building. And this is something that game design, game companies do all the time anyway. They will do what's called white boxing level, where they just have these white objects. Sometimes they call it gray boxing. And they'll just, just kind of like rough it out a little bit, So I'll just move this kind of stuff over here. When you scale things like this, the textures get all screwed up. And so I'm not even going to bother with textures and things like that. I'm just gonna make a little office building. This, good, it's lined up there, and it's lined up there. Cool. All right, awesome. Maybe I'll make it a 2-story building. Why not? Maybe a little taller. Over here. Good enough. And then I'm gonna hold down Alt and drag it over here. And there is our other wall here. Got a tree creeping in on us. All right, so click, 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 and we'll just move forward a little bit so it's out of the tree zone. I mean, I could move the tree, I could move the plants, but nah, who cares? All right, so we got that, duplicated it. Sure, let's duplicate it, Alt drag, rotate 90 degrees, and slide it back, and we'll see it's not quite big enough, so I'll center it here, drag it out a little bit. There we go. Maybe I'll make that a little bigger. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Who cares? And then drag this up here. There we go. We now have a indoor zone, right? Which is the whole point of this endeavor, because I'm going to be showing you lighting. Whatever. Okay. I really shouldn't even be messing with this. Good enough. All right. It's horrible, but good enough. So we've got an indoor zone, and our indoor zone. Maybe I'll put a doorway on it. Oh, this could be kind of fun. This will be a neat little thing for you. So I'm gonna have the front actually have geometry. I'm not using a box anymore. I'm actually using what's called geometry. Slightly different. Material, where are my materials at? I have to select the face here. We'll just do basic shape material. I want to select the whole object. Select. Geometry, select. All adjacent wall surfaces, good, okay. And then the thing is going to be called basic, right? Basic wall, why not? Okay. This one is basic shape material. Why is that not showing up here? Well, let's make all these things basic wall. Change all their colors a little bit. Probably could shift click these things and save myself a little bit of effort. Okay, and now you select all. You will be a basic wall. Okay, so let me show you what's kind of cool about this thing called geometry. So this geometry thing, if I were to put a material on there, you would see that because I scaled it, this thing is all like stretched out and stuff like that. Geometry works a little bit differently. So if I were to scale this out here and here, notice how the thing is actually, well, maybe I can show you guys the, let me show you the big difference, I guess. So I'm going to have it cover up this whole area here. Okay, so it looks like we've got this kind of solid box going on here. Okay. No, one more up. That's sticking out a little bit too. Okay. Things not quite lined up right, but whatever. That's not even the point. Did I lose my face? I lost my face. Okay. All right. So so let me show you what's cool about geometry. So I could put a doorway into this a lot easier than I could by using a whole bunch of boxes like this. But I could like shape these boxes in such a way that there's like a doorway, but I'd have to have this piece and this piece. You know, I'd have to like come up here and like scale it down and then like move it across, scale it up. Now I've got a doorway, and you know, it's just annoying to have all those different pieces. So let me show you what you can do with geometry. So I can take another geometry here and put another box here, and I can come inside and make sure this box overlaps the other box. This box is going to turn into a negative. Do you see right here where it says brush type? I'm going to turn it into a negative surface, and it cuts away the inside of the wall. And so here, the material is actually on the inside, not on the outside. And so I've got myself a doorway. I can come over here and just walk on the inside. So this is something called constructive solid geometry. Constructive solid geometry means you can actually add and subtract geometry together. And this allows you to do things like create a, like let's say, I don't know, you're making like a pipe that you're gonna like run through. So you make like a cylinder and rotate it 90 degrees and stretch it out. This, and then make it even bigger. This, and then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to make the duplicated version smaller in just that direction, and I'm going to make the smaller one subtractive. So now you got a tunnel. That's it. That's all you have to do. So it's, you know, CSG is really useful for just making like really simple tunnels and things like that. Make it a little bit wider, and then it'll flip through a little bit. There we go. That's it. So now we've got a little tunnel, you know, that you can do. And you know, doing this by placing each one of those boxes, you know, individually and scaling them out and connecting them and making sure they line up without seams like I have here. You know what I mean? So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete all of these walls here. I'm actually going to delete all of them, everything. I'm deleting everything. And I'm actually going to just drag out a box, and I'm going to make it big. I'm going to build the whole thing out of geometry. Make sure it doesn't overlap that tree. And I'll make it out of, yeah, let's not do wood. Cancel. Maybe I'll just put it back on basic wall. Okay, so we got this giant box now. And now if I take a box for the doorway, I can now cut into it for the doorway. This. Make it. I'll give it a material. Yeah, the annoying thing about geometry is that each face takes its own. It can have its own material, which is kind of nice, but it's also kind of annoying. And yeah, so we're gonna make this thing subtractive, and there we go. We didn't cut through. Well, there is no open zone on the inside, right? So the inside right now is actually entirely solid, right? So what we have to do is click on the outer box here, Control D to duplicate it, and then we're going to shrink it down and make it subtractive on the inside. And there we go. So I've got one box on the outside that's solid, one box on the inside that's subtractive, and now we've got this, you know, internal house, and I don't have to worry about all of the edges lining up like I did before. See, there's no seams on anything. We have those weird shadow effects, things like that. The lighting in here is kind of weird, though. I'm not really sure why. Display shading line. But yeah, the other one was definitely darker on the inside, but that's probably, oh, it's because we don't have a floor. That's why. All right, so move this guy up a little bit, up a little bit, up a little bit, up a little bit, up a little bit. Yeah, took out the ceiling. Up, up. There's the floor. And there we go. And then I can just shrink the top down. Okay. So now we have this nice, nice building. Roof might be a little bit thicker than I want, but it's all good. Okay. So now inside of here, I'm going to place some lighting and show you guys what it looks like for the different kinds of lights in an interior area, which is usually where you use more lights. Okay. So point light is like a light bulb. And so you put it over here and you can just illuminate a little area of your world. This thing's still yellow. It's so weird. It's a nice wooden. Let's see if we can find something better than this. It's pretty shiny, so. That looks better. Okay. Okay. So we've got ourselves a point light inside of here, and we can move it around. You can see that the wood's fairly shiny. Not as shiny as it was a second ago. It looked very like waxed wood before. And so now you can fill the room with pleasant lights and things like that. You have darker corners and lighter corners and stuff like that, right? You change the color of the light to create different kinds of moods, create a rave. The attenuation radius controls how far away the light can affect things. Let's actually delete this one. Just see one thing here. So when you pull the attenuation radius all the way down, it doesn't affect anything. So you can constrain how much area of the map your light will touch. Source radius, the thing itself can have a physical like zone that it is light within. And you can make it cylindrical as well. Generally, I don't worry about that kind of stuff too much. Temperature of the light, so you can have bluer lights and warmer lights like that. Or you can just mess with the color directly. Either way works. Doesn't affect the world. Well, that's pointless. Does it cast shadows? We'll need to get a prop out here. Let's do a prop of a chair. Actually, the wall sconce is actually probably pretty useful. All right, so drag this 90 degrees left, and then if we put the light into the wall sconce, properly, voila! Now the wall sconce casts a shadow downwards. It looks pretty cool, right? So the attenuation radius a little bigger. You make the light obviously much brighter, darker. If you increase the size of the light itself, it's going to overwhelm the sconce and shine south through it. Make it vertically taller as well. If you don't cast shadows, there you go. So volumetric lighting, scattering. Yeah, we don't really have much fog in our world right now. So let me go to the world outliner, search for fog. The fog. All right. The fog doesn't have much density. We should have volumetric fog on. Yes. Okay. So the fog selected. Let's just add a little bit of haze to the world, maybe. And so with the fog turned up, you can see that the lighting, ooh, it's flickering. That's not good. The fog is going to cast like it'll reflect off the droplets of the fog, and so there's something called in-scattering, which is the direction that light reflects within the fog. Directional in-scattering like this, and so you can create different effects based on what you're looking for. You can see here, like you can play with it and get kind of these nice, see how, I don't know if it's coming through, but you can see how like the fog itself is like reflecting light in different directions, and it looks really nice. You can also see the normal map of the wall right here as a result too. So it's an awfully bright light for indoor, like it's almost hurting my eyes a little bit. Let's click back on you and reduce the intensity. That's maybe too much. Okay. And you can still see it's a nice, pleasant, foggy, scattering. And so, yeah, that works. Okay. So that is your directional light, your point light. The directional light's the sun usually. You can have two directional lights usually in a world, one for the sun, one for the moon. You can have a rectangular light if you want to simulate a window. So if you want to draw like a texture of a window on the wall here. Let's see, from the window to the walls. Okay, here. If you had like a picture of a window there, then this simulates a rectangular area with light coming in. Same thing, you can have all sorts of light coming in here. The fog's handling it properly. You have different color of the rectangular light. They're usually used for windows, I would say. What area they can affect, how wide and how tall the window is. And you can have multiple of these, right, in a room. So if you have some just pictures of windows, you can have, just imagine there's a picture of a window there. It's not actually drawing anything outside the world. It just looks like it. And then you can have light streaming in through the windows, creating a very beautiful effect like that. Spotlights are used to draw attention to things. Like this. So if you have, we talked about this before. I went over this before. If you have a key item, then you can have the light shining on the key item to draw attention to it. Like, hey, pay attention to this thing. That's the point of a spotlight. Is that this thing here is important. You need to look at it. Okay. So we come into the building here. Like this, right? And so this looks substantially different from like if we turn off the spotlight. Right? Now it's just this rock hidden in the darkness. But with the light back on, now this grabs our attention. Okay. So we've talked about all this kind of stuff before. I think we have a spotlight over here somewhere, maybe on this thing. I don't know. But now we're going to learn how to do this in blueprints. Okay. So we can do things like control the lights, like with a light switch and things like that. So let's make a light switch. That's kind of fun. It's kind of cool. So we've got our geometry building here we've built, and we can turn, maybe we'll get rid of these rectangular lights so it's a bit darker inside of here. Maybe we put a spotlight up on the ceiling. We have a hanging light over here, and the spotlight's going to be over here. So we got a spotlight hanging from the ceiling here, casting light down. You can see the fog reflecting off it. It looks pretty cool, right? So we have a little spotlight there. Okay, so we've got our point light, we got our spotlight, we got another spotlight here. Okay, let's build a light switch. So a couple different ways you can do this. You can make it so when you walk into the room, the lights turn on. That could be fun. That's a common thing in a video game. you walk into a deserted tunnel, you know, like this over here. It's all dark, and as you walk in, like lights turn on in front of you. You've probably seen things like that before. So first thing we'll do is we'll just have this light here, be off by default. It'll be effects world false, so it doesn't actually do anything. And then we're going to create just a little trigger here. I want there to be a floor there. Ah, that's bad. Better, I guess. Okay. And I'll fix these two. The nice thing about having a box is that you just put one material on it and it affects all of them. With the geometry, you have to either select all the different faces and set them all. Why is it so yellow? It's so weird. Such a weird material. Okay. I should make it something else, but whatever. Okay, so we're going to walk in, and when we walk in, we want the light to click on, okay? And so maybe, maybe we'll get rid of that. And over here, and line it up vertically with you. You're at 1300, negative 1250. So we're going to put you at negative 1250, negative 1250. Let's see if that looks about right. Yeah, good. Okay. And then when we walk in, we're going to have this spotlight go, you know, and boom. Maybe we can even put it on a delay. So you walk in, and there's like the sound of like a light switch being flung, and then this rock, you know, this weird alien-looking rock thing, whatever it is. Okay. So we'll do this using a blueprint. So we're gonna make a brand new blueprint in here. We're gonna right-click and choose new blueprint. Let's save everything first. Right click, choose new blueprint class, and this will be called a light switch zone DP. So when we put this out into the world, we're going to create a little zone, maybe a little bit in from the doorway. So you like have to step in. And then when you hit it, maybe there's a delay and a sound, and then chunk, and then the light turns on the rock. Okay. So double click on it to open it up. And we're fine with the ashy material now. So we're going to add a box trigger to it so that will make it a little bigger, maybe. Yeah, scale it out in here. Cover up the doorway. So when the player walks in, and we can scale it up a little bit too. So there's no way they can get in without triggering the light. Sometimes that's like a bug or a glitch in a video game, or like you can kind of squeeze around a trigger zone and avoid a cutscene. And like speedrunners use that for tricks and things like that. Okay, so when we walk in, we're going to enter this zone. What are we going to do? First thing we do when we begin overlapping. Rodell, what's the plan? What happens when what's the first thing we always do? We walk in, what do we do? Skywatana, what do we do? Print string, yeah, just make sure it works, right? If just print hello, just take a second, just verify everything works. Because collision settings, overlap settings, all of these things can be messed up one way or another. Hello, there we go. All right. Thank you. Okay, so that worked fine. Done. All right. So now we need to now tell the spotlight up here to turn on. And there's different ways you can do this. You can name the spotlight. You could call it like a rock spot. I don't know. And then you could like have this guy like find all actors, find actor, find nearest actor. What is it? Actor by name. Search. I don't remember the name of it. That's not what we're going to do anyway. So what we're going to do anyway is we are going to notice that this thing is of type. What are you? You are a spotlight, I think. Class spotlight. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and make a variable of type spotlight. This is going to be called mySpot. And it's going to be spotlight like this. Spotlight object reference. What we always pick. We're going to make it public. Click on the eyeball. That's very important. Compile it, save it. And then what we're going to do is with this thing selected, you can see because we made that a public variable, we can actually edit the mySpot variable now. And we can just click on the drop-down box and pick rock spot. So we could have multiple trigger zones, multiple spotlights, and each one just needs to be linked. If you don't link them, if you leave this as none, basically, then you're going to get an error message. It's going to say something like trying to access properties of none. And that's a sign that you didn't set your variable properly. Okay, so what we're going to do is when we begin overlapping, we're going to drag out mySpot. In fact, we can do a validated get. We talked about this last time. And so if the spotlight is not set, we can actually, print a message to ourselves, print string, dummy, you forgot to set the variable mySpot. Okay. Make a little note to yourself. If you forget, if it is valid, then what we're going to do is we are going to set effects world. Maybe what we can do, you selected X world. Maybe we just set visible on it. That might be a better way of doing it. So we'll start off with it affecting the world, turns visibility off, which has effectively the same thing. And then we can drag off of, that's why. Set visible, set visibility. Set actor hidden in game. Maybe. False. That might be a different setting. Actor hidden in game. That's not the one. Okay. Q. Set visibility. Let's try that. Visibility turns on and propagate to children. Why not? Okay, let's try that. That might not work because it's this thing and we're setting the visibility on this thing. Okay, that might work. Okay, cool. All right, so let's play it. They don't always name the nodes. We walk in and there we go. Boom, done. All right, so that's a very simple light switch. Okay, so you just walk in. And I'm doing a validated get, just in case I forget to set the variable here. And then I'm setting the visibility to true. So by default, the spotlight up here is visible off. And then when I walk in and touch it, visibility turns on. I can also play sound. Sound at location. And we can play. Nice. Oh, these starter sounds are really very useful, are they? Alright, fine, we'll use collapse. This is a dummy placeholder, and we're going to get actor location. So we're going to get our location, and so we're going to play that collapse sound. Maybe tone it down a little bit on the volume. And so we're going to replace this later on, this placeholder. It'll be like the sound of like a big light switch going to chunk. And then we're going to delay for a second. We're delay literally for a second. Like this. And then we will show the light. This is a more dramatic effect than what we had before. So instead, there's a little moment of drama where you walk in, you're going to hear the light switch go off, and then the light turns on. Okay. Maybe we'll make it 2 seconds. Take that guy out. Okay, there. Watch this. There we go. And the light turns on. Okay. So that's quite reasonable if you want to get a good sound. And there's websites out there for like free sounds. Probably grab this really fast. Light switch. And none of these sound very good. Look at that breaker. Yeah, that sounds better. That sounds good. That sounds good. Okay. It's like a big honkin' light switch getting flung. Download. Save it on the desktop as a WAV file, which is perfect. I'm going to leave this open because we might use it again. And then I'm going to come in here to import. And I'm going to import off of the breaker, which I'll probably rename breaker. Breaker. And then import that there. We go under B probably. Breaker, good. Save all. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a queue out of it. And so this is going to be called breaker queue. Now by default, it just sounds the same, right? How easy it would be to import sounds from outside of Unreal Engine for that? Yeah, that's exactly what I just did right there, right? You just go to a website, make sure it's a WAV file. Unreal Engine doesn't know how to play like an MP3 or something like that. So basically WAV file is like your go-to thing. And then after you import it, a thing that I always like to do, you don't have to do this. This would work fine. That works fine. I right click, I choose create queue out of it. The reason why I do that is because you can add like a little bit of variance to the thing. The modulator. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And so when you play it, let's make it a little more dramatic than this. Turn up the volume so you can hear it. See how it randomly picks the pitch and it randomly picks the volume. So I like always using a cue. I always like using a modulator, usually not with this much variance because it sounds quite weird out in the extremes. But usually like 0.9 to 1.1, 0.9 to 1.1 is pretty good. And so what like for footsteps and things like that, like your footsteps never sound exactly the same in real life. But in video games, it will just keep playing the same footsteps sound over and over again, right? Every time you shoot a gun and a casing gets ejected, it sounds the same every time in a video game, and that's really annoying. And so by putting in a modulator, you can have some of your shots come out a little bit softer, some of them higher pitched, some of them louder, some of them lower pitched. And that's just, it just adds a little something to your game, you know? Like, it's not huge, but like, it just makes your game feel good, you know? And your footsteps sound a little bit different every time. Every bullet's a little bit different every time. It actually sounds pretty nice. Now, this is a sound effect that's going to be played like once, you know? So, yeah, it's not going to matter. I mean, I guess technically we walk back and forth on it. All right. Okay. All right. Quiet. Okay, here we go. Dang it, we didn't switch out the light. The sound with the light switched on. Okay, let's do that. Come over here, and we're going to do breaker Q. There we go. All right. Let's try this. So it's different every time. Okay. Probably should only play once though, so we should probably just destroy actor ourselves so that you won't keep hearing that light switch getting triggered. It'll pop off. Why does it explode right at the beginning? You stuck on the doorway? Okay. Yeah. So now it doesn't trigger anymore. So you walk in once. It highlights the alien artifact or whatever it is you're trying to show. It deletes itself. You're done. Very common, very simple thing you can make. It is a box trigger that is linked to a spotlight, and you walk in, you play a sound, maybe have a little delay or something. This could probably be promoted to a variable and made that public, and then not duration, we'll call this delay. Yeah, whatever. Okay. And so the map maker or whatever that's placing this thing, they could choose which spotlight turns on and after how many seconds of delay. And then they can reuse this blueprint over and over again. They could have another, yeah, let's do it in here, right? So just add a spotlight in here. That. And it can be visible off by default. And then we can have our light switch zone back over this way. Right, so you can reuse the same blueprint over and over again. So you don't have to make a separate one of these every time. That's why we have a variable, right? Instead of hard coding it, that's what I was saying. Like you could hard code it so that it finds the object with the, this isn't even a blueprint, so it might not even work. You could like find the guy in the world and turn it off, but it's usually better to just use a variable like this. And so this guy is going to be attached to this guy, whose name would be room spot. I don't know. And so we basically just say, okay, you're going to turn on room spot after a delay of 0.3 seconds. Okay. And so each one of your light switches could have a different delay and a different spotlight that they're connected to. Okay. And so let's close this over here. Let's go over here. Now watch, when I walk in here, there'll be a short delay, and then the light turns on. Cool. And then that's it. It doesn't do it again. Pretty useful, huh? All right, so we can also make a traditional light switch. So for example, we can make another blueprint class, actor. And this one will be called light switch physical. Maybe light switch physical BP, if I can get in here. Thank you. Light switch physical underscore PP. That. Save. Good. Okay. Now this guy, put him out in the world too. This guy will be like up on a wall. Like we'll have a little like light switch over here on the wall. And so this guy, we're going to add a box. On a box collision, we'll add a cube to it. This cube's probably going to be giant. Yeah. So we're going to maybe shrink this cube down to like light switch size. Something about yay big. A little light switch like that. Switch it back around here. Okay, so this guy's forward vector is still pointing that way. It's weird. Okay. Oh, whatever. So we'll have this, and then we'll have like a little, maybe we'll thicken it a little bit. All right, that snap to grid's way too crazy. And we'll make it light switch proportions. Maybe we will even make a second cube that will come down here a little bit, come out here a little bit. Look like a little rocker panel, you know? And maybe we can make this a different color a little bit. Be like, yeah. What do you guys think? Does that look like a light switch kind of a little bit? Maybe make this a little bit narrower. Camera speed's way too high. What do you guys think? They look about like a light switch to you. Maybe I can rotate this. Something like that. Looks like a little rocker switch. Light switch. And let's make sure it's pointed the right way. Camera speed will drop down really low. Minimum. That looks pretty solid, I would say. So, hide the back of it. And there's a light switch. All right. A little bit. It's not hovering off the wall. Yeah, got a light switch. All right. So then we'll make it so that when the user touches it, then it activates this light over here. This light over here starts off on. Why not? And then we hit the switch here, and it'll turn off. So this guy here, if we mouse over it, is a point light. So our light switch physical here will need a variable for a my light, which will be of type point light. That's going to be an object reference as always. It's going to be public. And come into the event graph over here. We're not going to overlap. We could add a little box trigger. In fact, we might have to if this thing is like too hard to hit. You know, like it's so small, you might actually have trouble touching it, which can happen. So we could add like maybe a little box box collision on it. But we're going to just try event hit. So basically, when the player walks up and they bump into this, then we are going to flip this switch here. So we're going to save it, compile it, and then we're going to come back out and see that my light is now settable. There's my light switch there. So my light, okay. What's your name? Your name is, call this guy room light, point light, something like that. And then the switch, when we click on it, we can just either select it from the drop down here, or we can use the dropper tool and use the dropper tool and select it that way. Either way works. Okay, come over to here, and then when anybody hits us, probably we only want it to trigger on the player. So we drag out from the other, and we're going to say cast to third person character. And that works like an if statement. So if it was the person that hit us, first thing we're going to do, everybody, print string, right? Compile, and let's do this here. And it prints hello. All right, cool. So now it's doing this a lot, right? So we probably need to add in a delay or make it so that the player has to walk away before we re-enable the light switch. But let's just do a delay for now. Simple enough. There's better ways of doing this. We can do like a one-time switch that can re-trigger. It's fine. We'll just do a little delay of half second. Second. Half second. Why not? Then that at least won't flip the switch more than twice a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab out my light. We're going to get my light, and we're going to do a validated get again, because if we forgot to set it, then we need to set it. And if it's not valid, we'll do the print string and say, bruh, you forgot to set my light. Okay. If it is valid, then we are going to get, we have my light here, and we're going to set, we're going to get, is it, point light, okay. Oh, we can get the, oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Get the light color. Instead of just turning it on and off, that'd be kind of fun, actually. Like rotate the color or whatever. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Okay, so let's do set color. The point light component, I think. And the new color is going to be a random linear color structure, right? Random color. Set random. Choose a quite nice color based on a random hue. It's so weird. Okay. Light color. See if that works. I've never done this before, so we'll see. We'll see if that works. Okay. Doesn't seem to do anything. Okay. You have a point light component here. Set color. And I'll just set it to red and we'll see if this works. There we go. Cool. All right. And then we could set it to red or green or any other thing. We could probably pull this out and do like a random float. That return 0 to 1, 0 to 1. Yeah. And we can do that for each one of them. Now we can have a disco going on here. All of you guys are aligned to the left. I'll save, run. Every time we walk up and hit the light switch, we get a different random color. Okay. So that'll be your homework for the weekend. I want you guys to do some constructive solid geometry. I want you to build something using some CSG. I want you to build some light switches. You can turn the lights on and off like we did with the first one, or you can have a random, rave color going on with the second one. It's all good. Okay? Does that seem like fun for you guys? McKinney, Watana, Chua? Time to build a tavern. Disco tavern. It's fun. Yeah, game dev's fun. And, you get sky's the limit for your imagination. You can have, 10 different lights and have them all, cycling in colors at different times. Use all sorts of, you can have them tied to the time. And so the sign of the time feeds into the red value. And so you can actually have rippling lights and stuff like that. There's just all sorts of things you can do in game dev, and sky's the limit. Have fun. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for coming out. I'll see you next time. Peace.